Part 1 covered the loud ones, the ones who walk into the room and immediately start performing. California, Texas, Florida, New York. You know their energy before they open their mouths. But 50 is a lot of people. And some of the most interesting people in any room are the ones you almost missed. The ones with complicated histories and understated wardrobes, and something sharp to say if you just stop looking at the obvious ones for 30 seconds. These are the missing states, the ones the first Matt didn't have time for, the ones who, frankly, have been waiting long enough. Welcome back. Let's finish the introductions. The New England table. Massachusetts walked in correcting someone's pronunciation before she even sat down. She has a graduate degree from an institution she has mentioned 11 times. She was born inside a university and hasn't technically left one since. Outfit: Patagonia vest over a Harvard sweatshirt, bean boots, a reusable tote that says something pointed. Catchphrase: actually, we did that first. She's usually right. That's what makes it hard. The American Revolution started in her backyard, and she has never, not once, let it go. She invented public education. She gave the country the Kennedy family, the Big Dig, and the concept of arguing about sports as a moral obligation. She is exhausting in the way that genuinely intelligent people often are, and she knows it, and she thinks that's your problem to work through. She made the most important medical, technological, and philosophical contributions of the last 4 centuries. She simply expects appropriate credit. She will not thank you for agreeing with her. She expected it. Connecticut is sitting next to Massachusetts and is very tired of being confused with Massachusetts. Outfit: tasteful blazer, tasteful watch, tastefully restrained expression of quiet devastation. I'm not New York. I'm not Massachusetts. I am my own thing. Connecticut is old money that never talks about money. She has the highest per capita income in the room and wears it like a secret. The kind of person who could buy the table twice over and still splits the bill evenly just to avoid the conversation. She is Gilmore Girls and hedge funds and the most covered bridge per square mile ratio in the country, which tells you everything about how she wants to be seen versus how she actually operates. She commutes to New York every day, resents New York entirely, and would never actually move there because the lawns in Westport are irreplaceable, and she has fully made peace with that contradiction. Rhode Island is sitting between them. Nobody noticed. Outfit: Adele's lemonade cup, a Providence hoodie, the slightly frantic energy of a person who has something to prove. Catchphrase: we're the smallest state. We did not ask for your pity about that. Rhode Island is 5 feet tall with the confidence of someone 6'4". She was the first colony to declare independence from Britain and the last to ratify the Constitution. And if you think about that for even a moment, it tells you everything about her character. Stubborn, principled, operating entirely on her own timeline. She has a distinctly unique accent that linguists study like a rare fossil. She is fiercely devoted to coffee milk and calamari in a way that borders on constitutional law. She fits inside Los Angeles with room to spare. She finds that comparison deeply offensive. Don't make it. The Mid-Atlantic table. Pennsylvania looks like he has seen things. Outfit: a Carhartt jacket with actual wear on it, steel-toed boots, a Steelers hat he won't take off indoors. Catchphrase: You want a cheesesteak? I'll get you a cheesesteak. Don't argue with me about what goes on it. Pennsylvania is a man divided and has made a kind of peace with that division that looks, from the outside, a lot like stubbornness. Philadelphia is one person. Pittsburgh is a completely different person. Between them, 400 miles of mountains and farmland that voted entirely differently from both and would very much like to be acknowledged as a separate entity. He was the birthplace of American democracy. The Declaration and the Constitution were both drafted in his house, and he has processed that legacy by becoming deeply, sincerely unpretentious. He does not want to be inspirational. He wants to watch football, eat a sandwich, and not make it a thing. He lost the steel mills. He reinvented himself. He lost more things after that. He is still here. Pennsylvania endures in a way that isn't romantic. It's just real and ongoing, and maybe that's enough.
Maryland is trying to have a conversation. The two people on either side of her keep talking over each other. Outfit: a blue crab on everything. The crab is not a joke. The crab is load-bearing. Catchphrase: we are not D.C. We are adjacent to D.C. There is a difference. Maryland is the most quietly fascinating state. Nobody ever makes the subject of anything. She has mountains in the west, beaches in the east, and the Chesapeake Bay, the largest estuary in the country, threading through the middle of her entire identity like a spine. She has some of the wealthiest counties in America right next to some of its most struggling cities, and she holds that contradiction every single day without pretending to have resolved it. She invented Old Bay. She puts Old Bay on everything: crab, corn, fries, feelings. This is not a problem. This is a value system. Leave her alone. Virginia has repositioned herself 3 times in the last 20 years. She is very calm about it. Outfit: business casual that could pass for a lobbyist or a farmer, depending on the county. Both are present. Neither is performing. Catchphrase: Virginia is for lovers. We meant it then. We're working on what it means now. Virginia has more American history per square mile than almost anywhere else on Earth, and most of it is in direct, irreconcilable conflict with itself. She is simultaneously the home of the Confederacy and the home of the Union commanders who broke it. Northern Virginia is a D.C. satellite with a tech economy and a rush hour problem that will restructure your entire personality. Southern Virginia belongs to a different century. The Shenandoah Valley is its own quiet religion that doesn't advertise. She is ancient, contested, and genuinely beautiful, and she is still sorting through what she is. That process is loud. Respect it anyway. The Appalachian Table. West Virginia seceded from Virginia to stay in the Union. The irony of that is not lost on him. Outfit: work clothes, not for show, for work. Catchphrase: almost heaven. We meant that when we wrote it. The jokes write themselves, and he has heard every single one. But the jokes don't tell you this: West Virginia is the state that broke from its neighbor, physically, politically, permanently, to stay American when it mattered most. He powered this country for 100 years with coal and received black lung and economic collapse in exchange. He is not asking for your pity. He is asking for a moment of honest acknowledgement that almost never comes. His mountains are among the most stunning on the continent. His people have a generosity that will embarrass you when you encounter it. The kind that doesn't need recognition, that just exists as a default setting. He is struggling in ways that are real and documented and persistent. The rest of the room mostly looks away. He keeps showing up anyway. That is not a small thing. Kentucky arrived on a horse. He didn't need to. He chose to. Outfit: a well-loved hat. Bourbon in a flask that is not hidden. The kind of handshake a grandfather teaches you before anything else. Catchphrase: it's not just bourbon, it's the only bourbon. Kentucky has committed entirely to a handful of things and become better at them than everyone else on the planet. Bourbon, horses, basketball, bluegrass music. He is not diversifying his portfolio. The strategy is working. He hosts the most watched 2 minutes in sports every year and turns it into a hat festival of mythological proportion. The Derby is less a horse race than a formal exercise in collective Southern pageantry that can only be understood by attending it. He is Southern in the ways people romanticize and complicated in the ways people avoid. And he would hand you a glass of something excellent while you worked out how you feel about both. North Carolina is the one at the table who quietly transformed while everyone was watching someone else. Outfit: somewhere between mountain flannel and Research Triangle Tech hoodie. He's still deciding. He may never decide. That might be the point. Catchphrase: we're changing. Don't write the headline until we're done. North Carolina contains 3 completely different climate zones, the most passionately argued regional barbecue distinction in a country that argues about it everywhere. Vinegar-based, don't push him. A technology corridor that materialized in the middle of tobacco country and rewrote the state's entire economic identity. The Outer Banks sitting at the edge of the Atlantic like a geographic dare. And the Smoky Mountains breathing fog across a border that was never supposed to be where it is. He is basketball and research papers and pulled pork, and a coastline that doesn't wait for permission. He is still, actively, in the middle of becoming something new.
The Deep South table. Georgia was in the section header and somehow never got her paragraph. She noticed. She has been waiting. Outfit: something effortlessly well put together. Peach somewhere. Not on the nose about it. Catchphrase: Atlanta is a world city. The rest of Georgia knows Atlanta thinks that. We have opinions. Georgia is a state of productive internal tension. Atlanta is a global hub of black excellence, business, film, and culture. A city that built its own mythology and largely delivered on it. Outside Atlanta is everything else. Mountains in the north, coastline in the south, farmland in the middle, and 1,000 small towns that haven't changed in 60 years and aren't planning to. She gave the world Martin Luther King Jr., Ray Charles, Jimmy Carter, and Coca-Cola, which means she handed the planet a carbonated sugar water that colonized every corner of it, which is either an achievement or a warning, depending on your perspective. She is the capital of the New South. She carries the full weight of the Old South simultaneously. She is magnificent and complicated, and she has been waiting for this paragraph for a long time. Alabama walks in and braces for it. Outfit: church clothes, the good ones, pressed. Catchphrase: you don't know what happened here. The real story, not the version you learned. Alabama absorbs the first look, the one everyone gives him, and waits for it to pass. He's used to it.
What the first look never accounts for is this. The civil rights movement didn't just happen near Alabama. It happened in Alabama, on his streets, in his churches, in the Birmingham jail where a letter was written that changed the moral architecture of the entire country. That is not a small thing to carry. He carries it in every direction at once. The football Saturdays that stop entire cities, the small town warmth that blindsides everyone who actually shows up, and a long, complicated, unresolved reckoning with history that the rest of the country assigned to him and then moved on from. He has not moved on. He is still there, still working through it, still showing up in church clothes, ready for whatever the morning brings. 50 states, each one a world. Some of them loud, some of them quiet. All of them stranger, deeper, and more contradictory than any map on the wall can capture. That's the point of the bigger map. Not the one in the textbook, not the one on the news, the one underneath. The one built from history and geography and 4 centuries of people who just kept showing up regardless. The map gets bigger the longer you look.